I'm back! How are all you Mesa Boogie guys doing? Or Mesa Boogie as they say in England. There are some funny ways of saying things, don't they? But don't worry about that. That's not what it's about. What this is about, this video, is how we can take a USA Mesa Boogie and turn it into an English or European Mesa Boogie. In fact, it'll work in Australia too, so if you're really clever, you boys down under, well, guess what? You can convert some too. What a great idea. Now look, I'm going to let you into a secret. When we do this conversion, which we're going to do on this video, a lot of the Mesa Boogie amps are very similar. They're not the same, but they're similar. If you go onto my channel on youtube.com/Tony Mckenzie, you'll see that I did a conversion on a different amp, a Road King Mark II. And although it is different, you've still got the similar sort of board and the connections, and a lot of it's very, very similar. And you can find a lot of the schematics on the internet to do this, and you can go and buy the transformers from maybe Tube Amp Doctor, where I get mine from. But you can buy them from lots of places. There's quite a number of companies that make the necessary transformer, you know, to convert this from 110 or 120, it might be over there, to 240. Nice and simple. So if you've got a plug like that, you know, the American type, what am I going up and down? You can see it better there. When you want a plug like that, one of these English things, or even a European one, this is the place to come. Oh. Now on this amplifier, you're going to need one of these big fat things, and it's big and fat. That's pretty fat too, isn't it? And you've got a couple of components. One's an MOV. Oh, what's the other one? I forget. Let me just take a look. Yeah, sure enough, you need a couple of components. You need a thing called an MOV, which is an over voltage protector. This one's, I think, 275 volts. Nice, because ours is 240. So it's going to be okay. Different countries need different capacity ones. And we need this other thing called a CL60, which is a bit like a sort of explosive fuse type of thing, which will go pop if you get the wrong things going through it. This one's CL60, so that's for this one in the UK. It's CL30 in the USA, by the way, by default. And I'm not sure the MOV, but when we pull one out, no doubt we'll have a look at that. So you need them. You need this. You need obviously one of these or something very similar. These might vary depending on which amp you're going on. But apart from that, it's all take it apart, which is what we're about to do now. I'm going to pull the amp out of this nice case, and we'll get it on here and have a look what we got to do next. It's all going to be fun. Oh, by the way, I'm probably going to be changing these once or twice. I don't want to be here on these for 3 days, do I? I could be changing them, and so don't be surprised if you see me in a different top or a different hat, or I might even find the cat hat. I haven't had that out for a while. Yeah, I like cats. No, that wasn't so bad, was it? 4 screws, 1 cable, one couple of reverb bits of wire, and slither her out. Yeah, simple. Well, it all looks good. This is the big fat one we're going to have to change. It's very much like the other big fat one. Actually, that's behind me. You can see just there. So this one's going to come out, that one's going to go in, and it's all going to be hunky-dory. Well, it will be. We've got a few wires to change around and a few of these little bits, but listen, hey, this isn't rocket science. But this is the point where I'd say to you, hey, if you're not qualified or you don't know how to do it, either one's good, don't do it. You could get killed. Just like that. I've had practice. And anyway, I'm half dead anyway, the missus says, so it's okay for me, but it's not okay for you if you don't know what you're doing. Whatever you do, don't go further from this point to repair your amp and do these mods unless you know what you're doing. I won't be held responsible. Remember that. I'm telling you not to. And if you skip past this, well, that's tough. You shouldn't do it. Now that's out the way, let's get down to it, man. You're down there. Now, just before I do go too much further, I'm going to take these tubes out and number them 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we can put them back into the same place. It's a good idea. So let's whiz them out and then flip it over. You don't want to crump them, do you? It could be bad. Now hold on. Okay, well, here we are on the underside. Great idea. There's the power transformer. That's the USA version. And we're going to fit that other one in its place. So you've got a few things you've got to do. You can see these wires come out of here, and there's a few go round to this board up here, a few go down here. We've also got this thing here. That's a little bit confusing, isn't it? You know, these come round here, a few that go off down there. So we're going to have to get down there to get our hands dirty to change them out. But this thing here, that thing there does, if you can see it, that's the CL30. That other one there is the MOV, as is 275 volts. This one's less. And we've got the wires to swap. And of course the big fat chunk itself. Well, that's not too problematic, is it? Well, it could be, especially if you don't know what you're doing, so bear that in mind. You're going to need a schematic of the USA version, and you need a schematic of the UK version. Well, the good news is, if you've got a schematic of your amp, frankly, it's all going to be good, because the schematic for the USA one has the UK details on it, and European details, and indeed Australian. So it's all good news. Now, like I said, the first thing I'm going to do is take note of all the colours of the wires that are there as standard. Every wire that comes out, and off this one. And I'm going to compare them on the schematic to make sure they're identical, which they will be, because I've already looked. And then I'm going to take the other transformer, you know, the big fat one, the new one, and I'm going to look at the wiring colours and what each wire does, each output is, and just confirm that the colours are the same, because last time I did a conversion on a Mesa Boogie, the Road King 2, some of the colours were different, although the voltages were all correct. So if there is a variance in these colours, what you need to do is mark them out on your schematic very, very carefully. And indeed on the transformer schematic that you get from Preamp Doctor, or maybe one of these other companies. There's loads of them. So that's the first job. Mark out what you know you've got to change. And if the colours have changed, like I said, mark them down. Now guys, I did speak earlier about this, saying that, oh yeah, you just change the wires over and it'll work as a 240 volt beast. Well, no, it won't. It won't work as a 240 volt beast. So if you've got an Electra Dyne and you want to convert it to 240 volts, there's two things you need. Well, a couple of bits, like I've said. You need obviously the power transformer, which is this big fat thing here. But you also need this little thing here. And I can tell you now, this is not an easy thing to get around initially. And I say initially because I've actually got around it. And it's all going to be good news for you when I tell you about it. Okay, well, what I did is I went back to my contact at Preamp Doctor and explained to him that, hey, this one that's fitted in here isn't the one that I need for Europe, or anywhere where there's 230, 240 volts in. Now, I scoured the internet high and low to find one of these. I even went to MCI's website, and it seems that this particular transformer, which by the way is a transformer that comes in from 240 volts, and it feeds the preamp board just here. This is the preamp board. That's the power for the preamp board. It comes in and connects down there. So that's part of the story. But anyway, the fact is, I couldn't find one anywhere, and that generates a problem, because here in the UK and probably in Europe, it's major problems. Well, anyone who's listened to me talking about Mesa Boogie and Europe and Great Britain will know that the distributors that sell these parts, either this one or this one, are going to screw you to the floor for these devices, because they can, because you can't buy it anywhere else. Now you can buy the transformer somewhere else, but you can't buy this anywhere else. You've got to go back to Mesa Boogie and they'll refer you straight to their distributor, if they will supply you one, because I've read on the internet from some people that they insist that the amp goes back to an authorised dealer to have the work done. They'll do everything they can to stop you converting this amp, in particular on the Electra Dyne, back to a 240 volts or 230 volts, Australia, wherever, from 120. Sickening position, really. So, like I said, I went back to my friendly Stephan, a tube amp doctor, and what he said, okay, no problem. Tell me the resistance between these three. The yellow was originally blocked off, and these two went down to the board. Tell me the resistance, tell me the sizes of it, we'll make one. Simple as that. Now, I don't know what it costs yet, but basically they're going to make one of these to be a similar specification. And you fit that one in, pull this one out, and away you go. Now, it does mean you've got to buy this as well, extra bit of expense, but let's face it, it's not a massive transformer. I don't think it's going to be that expensive. So it still makes it very viable to convert the Electra Dyne. But it looks like the Electra Dyne, so possibly the Royal, whatever they call it, I think they call it the Royal Atlantic, that might be very similar, because these two amps are really very similar in many ways. So if you take the bottom off your amp, obviously you'll see your power transformer. But if you do see one of these, you do need to have a look at the circuitry and just pin down whether it is a device that's feeding power, or whether it's a device that's doing something else. I don't know. On this case, on the Electra Dyne, you need one of them. You need to get it from Tube Amp Doctor. I'm sure that they can help you, because they helped me. And there ends the lesson for today. I'm back. Well, actually I haven't been anywhere. I just come back up for a breath of air. And we were discussing the Electra Dyne and what I needed to change inside. And I remember looking at this with you. This little transformer here, and saying, oh, that's fine, we'll be able to keep that one. And this is simple, just change the main transformer and we're in business. I was wrong. The only really one thing you can do: make your own. So cutting a long story short, I went to my friendly engineer, and he's very friendly, Stephan. Hi Stephan. Great engineer, German guy, and he knows his stuff. Unlike me, that fiddles around with bits of wire and looks at these diagrams and thinks it's some sort of puzzle. Anyway, he told me to make a few measurements, which I did. Send me the info, he says, and I sent it, and lo and behold, 14 days later, they'd actually made one for me. What about that? Now listen, he didn't give it to me, I had to buy it. This was about $80, 80 euros, which is near dollars, I suppose. So that's cost me, with the shipping and all the rest, it cost me about, in English money, that real stuff, it cost me about £75 landing, with VAT and all the rest of the crap that you have to put up with in England. But it's a damn sight cheaper than if I went to the Mesa distributor, because the Mesa distributor won't sell you one, and Mesa won't sell you one either. So if you've got a 240 volt amp and you're over in the USA, don't bother going asking Mesa, they're going to tell you where to get off probably. Well, maybe they won't. What they do in England. Been there, done that. Now, taking a quick look at this, the outputs on these are 0. On this particular transformer, this little one, it's 0 volts, 400 volts and 406 volts. And I noticed that on this one, in fact the orange, which is 406 volts, isn't used. So you only use the two output ones, which in this case are blue and yellow, which were originally connected to the board on the original transformer. And this has got the blue and yellow as well. Now on the replacement, you can't have the same colours for the input, because the fact is, in Europe you have to have European colours. But I can tell you they're very similar, let's put it that way. And it's simple matter to connect. So what we got to do is flirt that one out, flirt this one in, And that's the first stage of the conversion. Now then, as you can see, this is the 241 they call the export. You can see the voltages. On the output side it remains the same, and this is the local one for the USA. So you can see that on the output side we've got 0 volts, 400 volts and 406. I can tell you the 406 volts one is not connected, it just dangles loose and it's sealed off. So we just need to change this transformer for this little section here, and it goes down and connects to the board, and change the other bits. So let's go and move the amp into place and take a look at what we're really talking about. And just before we do that, I just wanted to show you the completed replacement component. You can see, well, you will see that it's very similar to the original. It's just that these two legs are slightly wider. We can snip them off and cut in there a little bit. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. Okay, well, here we are. As you can see, that's the transformer I'm talking about. I've already undone the 2 screws that hold it in place. It has 3 wires, 2 of which went down to there. Let me show you. There. You can see them. They're the same colours as on the replacement. And the other wires, I've undone the sort of little clips that come on this thing. You've seen them. I've undone all them. And what you're left with is a couple of wires that you can sort of follow in. The grey isn't connected to anything, and the black and white is, you can see where they go with all the others. They go with the ones on the power amp too. Fancy that. So we can just change those 2 out, flip this out the way, put the new one in its place, and we're getting into business. But let me just rest it back in there for a while, because the other thing we need to do is this back plane here hides a few of the wires that are underneath. You can see them there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the screws on the back plane and just lift this out the way so we can get at that, and we can also get at these things here we need to change. You see them? Right at the top of the video. It all makes it nice and easy. We can do that in one go, and it's all going to be good. Yeah, so hold on. Let me go and screw the back off. Now there isn't really much to taking that back panel off. It's just the other side of this. I've turned the amp round. All you've got to do is undo all these screws, all these nuts, all the way across, and it will just lift out of place. Well, lift out of place enough for us to do the work we need to do. And obviously make sure your amplifier is safe with the capacitance and all the rest of it before you go and do anything stupid. And we'll be fine. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these off now, and then we'll move a bit further. Okay, as you can see, the backboard lifts out pretty easy. In fact, it lifts out just enough to be able to change these things down the end. A couple of wires underneath, and we're all back in business. So I think the first thing to do is to I think the first thing to do is to change these 2 and then flip this thing out, or we can change the wires on that and maybe bolt that into place, or maybe just put 1 bolt in for now, whatever you fancy. And then we can change the main transformer here. It's all very simple. So let me go and change these 2. You can see them here. They're not rocket science to change. You take one out and you put one in, but just make sure you get the right types, which I did talk about earlier. So I'm going to go and do that now. Okay, I just wanted to show you, there's the CL60. I trimmed the legs back ready to fit, just up there. And here's the MOV. I think this one's 270 volts, something like that. Whatever I said earlier. There they are. I'm just going to change them over now. And there's a quick shot of the 2 fitted in my amp. Simple. One out, one in. Now I did say we want to change this transformer out. This is it, this is the old one. And all it does is it's got a grey wire on it and a white and a black, which also go, might I add, to the white and black that go off this way, out of this transformer. Well, that's a black and white, dare I say it. Well, the 2 off this one are black and white, so we can just take them out, fit the other transformer, and make it fit into this this hole down here. Now, like I said, on the new one, the holes are slightly off, but when I get this one out, what I'm going to do is measure them and get them to be the same. So hold on, let's go and do that. I'll take it out and show you. I'm back. Again, up the top. Now, when you get this darn thing out, yours could be 240 or it could be 110, like this one is. Or 120, I think it is. Anyway, the thing is, these colours are the same as on this one, the counterpart. And these three are different. But I wouldn't really worry too much about that because that side's simple and I'll show you how to do that. What I did want to show you is when you take this original out, it has a piece of cardboard underneath just to isolate the main transformer core from the chassis. There'll be a reason for that, so just make sure when you fit the new one that you fit the same piece of paper back to cover the same area. I'm actually going to glue that in position so it can't move as we screw it back in. But the other thing you need to do is to take a look at the old transformer and take a look at the new one, and you can see that the holes are quite a bit out. Well, you can't, but I can. And they are quite a bit out, but if you're really very careful, you can just about squeeze them together. I reckon drill them down each side so that this one will fit in the place of that one. I'm also going to cut the end of these lugs off. If you see, these lugs here are much wider than they are on here. You can see yourself. Okay, so if we drill on the inside right in the corner of these two and then snip them off, it'll be all good. And that's one of the things I'm going to do next. So hold on and let me go and do it. So then we've got holes that are going to fit, and we'll just be able to screw this darn thing back into place as easy as we screwed out the old one. Nice. Hold on, let me go and do that. Okay, well there it is fitted. I've run the 3 wires around here that are going to go this way. Yeah, these are the colours for the UK. You've got black and white, that's ground. That's 240 volts, is this one. And the brown one is 230 volts. So I'll wire mine for 240 volts. And what you do is you just clamp the brown one off. And the same this way. What you want this side is the yellow and the blue, and you leave the orange floating. Obviously insulated. You can see, if you look very closely down there, you can still see the piece of cardboard that they put underneath the transformer. I fitted it to this one too. And if you just drill these really carefully, you can actually fit them with this this transformer holder, this bracket, in place with not too much difficulty. And there it is. We're ready to change this one next. Hold on. Well, here's a quick shot of the transformer diagram that I printed out from TAD. And I marked in all the colours that are currently on the board. It doesn't matter whether it's a different input voltage, the outputs that really matter. And I just cross-reference the inputs so we know what's where. It's all nice and easy to do then. It's just really spot the wires, find the colours, plug them on. Nice and simple. And that's how I like it. Now, looking at the board currently, I've snipped off the orange, which I'm going to seal off later. Here's the 2 wires that are going to go in there. Here's the 2 wires for the feed side that are going to go down there. And there's also a brown there that's going to be isolated off too. So the orange and the brown get isolated on this transformer. Right, so we're ready to really undo all these connections around here. Cut these things as we go. And then what we're going to do is desolder all of them, change this, and desolder them off there too, change this, and then fit all the others back in. And then we're getting somewhere near ready just for the final bit of wiring, put the board back and test her out. It all sounds good. So hold on, let me snip them off and start changing. Hold on. Now, there are a few things that can confuse you with this when you're changing these wires here, when you're taking the thing apart. You can see the main section comes out of here, down here, and the majority of the wires actually go along this section here. on the output side. You've got the two greens which go down here, but you've also got this brown and black, which in reality on the other transformer is brown. One goes down here and the other one goes along here to there. You can just see that. I'm going to try and zoom in a bit. I don't know how successful this will be. Yeah, there it is. You can see this blue, this brown and black wire comes down here. It's, by the way, joined all along these wires, so with a little clip of this type of thing. You'll see. I've cut mine off. And it goes on to the PCB there, and it says very clearly, you can see it there, 15 volts. Well, the truth is, it's not 15 volts, it's 12 volts. So don't let anybody confuse you, because even on their own diagram it says 12 volts. It's just on the PCB here it says 15 volts. It can be confusing. What it actually is it's actually a 12 volt out of the power, and it's 12 volts AC, and so it goes off to the couple of places where it should do. One goes down to ground and the other goes through these diodes down here. You probably can't see them too well, but there's some diodes down there. Oh, it all looks scary. I've cut all the wires. I've left the originals in place so we can track them back if we need to. And you could even join them and put the thing back as it was. I've cut the brown off. But I've also snipped off these voltage wires. Left them a bit longer than the others so I know what's where. And we can now take the transformer out, which I'm going to do. There's 4 bolts. One's got a ground on it. And let's get the transformer out and get that swapped over, and then we can start to make sense of the wiring. I'm back. Now listen, I've done a conversion before on a Mesa Boogie, and I can tell you now, it's always very, very difficult to get the bolts out. Now the bolts are on 3 of the 4. Actually, on 4 of the 4, they're isolated, and you can have a lot of problems with the little nylon washers. And what usually happens is when you eventually get this thing apart, you've got the washers, but not their ferrules that actually hold the screw from touching the sides. So I have a way around that. There's lots of things you could do. One of the things is you could put the nylon new washer on, that's the old one if you got me, on the top. And you've got one for the bottom too, except for the one that has the ground. Remember the one that had the ground over there? Yeah. Anyway, you could take one of those screws and put some heat shield on it, heat seal, you know, the heat shrink stuff, and shrink it on so that it doesn't touch. That's a good idea. Or you could take something like the old gaffer tape. Now I heat shielded it, or heat sealed it, or you call it what you like, and stuck it on and shrunk it down and fitted the screws in, and it's back in the chassis actually. I'll let you have a look a bit closer, but I can tell you now, getting this thing out, this is the old one, is a bit of a nightmare, especially if you want to keep the end cap. And unfortunately, the end cap that you do want to keep, as opposed to the one that nobody sees, is the one that's the difficult one on the other end of the screws. So that just take me about 35-40 minutes to get that end cap off. And I can let you into a little tip if you really want. What you can do is you can get your screwdriver down there, slacken them all off, hammer them from the end until they snap off. You can snap them off with a pair of pliers. Hammer a bit more with a drift, if you know what a drift is. And then put your screwdriver at the other side and hammer away. And you'll find they'll give a little bit. And you hammer away until you smash the heads off. Now, the end cover does get a little bit bent, but not that much. So the magic thing is, that saves you about 2 hours. And if you was to look inside here, you can still see, I don't know if you can see that, it's still got the screws in. Because I'm not interested in this one, it's just a piece of junk to me. Might be great if you're in the USA, but where I am, it's rubbish. So, let's Let's have a look a bit closer now, and I'll flip the amp over so you can see the necessary things, and then we can get on with rewiring it and fitting all these bits back in. It's all floating around. Will it ever work again? Oh my god, I've never done one before. Have you? Well, you might have. If you know something I don't, good for you. I'm with the rest of the guys. Rock and roll. Let's go take a closer look. And there's a nice quick shot of the amp with all its wires that have got to go that way. And it's other wires that have got to go this way and things like that. And yeah, very nice. What more can you say? Not a lot. Let's have a look on the top. And there's just a quick shot. You can see the top of the new power transformer. Looks just like the original. The original was a bit dirty and tatty, but that's just life. That's how they get, I guess. But you've got the magic end plate on there, and I suppose that's what matters. Now you could fit the end plate with the text this way or that way. Well, the other one over there has got the text over there, so I thought I'd read them both from the same side. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so far so good. It all looks good. It's just a few wires dangling. Oh, and a little board sitting down the back that we've got sort of floating around. Now, one of the things about the back of this little board here, if you look at the MOV and the other bit that they say is inrush protector, they had a little bit of gunk on, just holding them together so they didn't flex around much. I'm even going to do that, so I'll go do that now. Hang on. Well, you see, that's what happens when you haven't done one of these for a short while. Silicone adhesive sealant, solid as a brick. I'm going to have to get some more before I do that. So always remember, make sure you got the right stuff before you start. I'll do it later. Okay, what we're going to do next is we're going to move off, and what are we going to do next? I think we'll connect up this little simple power supply for the preamp and connect these on here. No, we won't. We'll do them last. And then we can start doing this power in on this side, and then we'll wire them up and then fit this back, and we're nearly ready to go. Yeah, let me go and take a look at what's going on down here. Hold on a minute. Well, hey, I'm still here. It's night in a different top. You can smell that other one was. Yeah, I got all these wires dangling, as you can see. But I've got my little trusty diagram. Yeah, bit of desoldering material to get the old wires off. Bit of solder, a bit of iron, and all I've got to do is connect these up, close off the ones that we don't use, and I'm going to go and do that now. And when I finish that, what we'll do is we'll have a bit of a zoom in and show you the colours of the wires on this transformer, which ones fit this Electra Dyne. So it's all very nice. Well, I think so. It's all pretty easy too. Okay, you've got to run a few wires around, and the odd one's a bit short, by the way. A bit like when I did the Road King, one or two of the wires that came on the transformer from Preamp Doctor were short, and in this case, at least the brown one off the old one I've got here, I can snip off and add to this brown one so that we get the right lengths. So anyway, as I said, I'm going to go and do that now, and I'll see you in a minute. Well, it's a minute to you, it's probably about an hour to me. Hold on. Well now, boys and girls, it's done. Yeah, that was the bat of an eyelid, wasn't it? It was a bat of something. Maybe it was a stupid bat, I don't know. Anyway, the point is, here it is in all its glory, and I'm going to show you which wires are connected to where. Now, you can solder, can't you? If you can't, I don't think you should be here. Anyway, what I'm going to do is zoom in and show you the actual colours from the new transformer, remember. That's the one from Preamp Doctor. So you can see which colours go where when you buy that transformer, and indeed the secondary transformer, this one here, for the preamp. Yeah, it's all good. So let's zoom in. I'll point them all out, colour by colour. I know it's boring, but if you're actually going to do this, it saves you days. And I'll show you what else I did. And away we go. Obviously, we've got to test it yet. Oh. Anyway, let's zoom in first and see what we got. Hold on. Okay, let's take a closer look. Here's the transformer, the power transformer. And what I did was, there was a few wires that need isolating. You need the 2 yellow ones isolating, like I did. Dump them back down there a bit. You need these 3. There's a white one. You use that one if you're 230 volts instead of the brown. The brown that goes off this way is 240. You've got a pink one, which is T2, that isn't used on this. And you've got a grey one. I don't even know what that's for, but they're all isolated off and left out the way up there. Let's have a look at the rest of the isolation bits, because there's only another couple. On this transformer down here, let's get nearer. There's only 2 wires that need there's only 2 wires that need shutting off. One is a brown wire and one is an orange wire. They're not used. The other 2 output ones, the blue and the yellow from this transformer, go to the board over there. And on the input side, that's the wires that go this way, you'll be using a, let me get this right, you'll be using what looks like a black and a white. I think it is that. Let's go down there, just have a little peek. Yeah, a black and a white, which is the voltage in. So that's that one out of the way. And on the output side of the power transformer up here, let's go back up to that. We've got a whole pile of wires. It's maybe best not to worry about them, but to look at where they're connected down there, and you can see the colours yourself then, much easier. So hold on, let's go do that. Okay, well, from right to left, looking at the amp as we are, from the back, you've got 2 orange, which are not from the power transformer at all, they are from down under the board somewhere. The next 2 are red, and those 2 are from the transformer. And the 2 red ones, let me tell you what they are. They are high voltage, so they go right there and there. You can see them. Moving along, we move then to 2 blue wires. You can see them there. There's 60 volts, and it says here bias. Maybe that's what it is, maybe what it is, who cares. Well, that's what you got, the 2 blue ones. Then you move along to the next wire, and the next wire is a brown wire. You can see it there, and that brown wire is 12 volts. There's one that goes to here, and there's another one that goes that way, which I'm going to show you in a second. You've also got another wire that goes down to ground here, and that's green and white. You can see just down there. It actually says on the board ground. Now this one was plugged into ground from the old power transformer, but there was actually a green and yellow filament connector, but I put it on the ground, which is where it came from. So let's just be clear about that. Where do we go from there? Well, we've got another few wires. If you look very carefully here, we've got a brown, which is the second brown. The first one goes down to the board there. The second brown goes that way. We'll go along to it. And we've got these 2 green wires here. And the green wires are basically filament wires. These 2 here. So they go along the board. Let's see where they go. Well, you can't see much of them. Remember, we had to remove this so we could get these 2 filament wires soldered in properly. They go underneath the board there. They're pretty straightforward. You just solder them on, take the old ones off, solder them on, and away you go. Nice and simple. However, that brown wire, you can see it there, is the second one that was coming from the power transformer. And we said that the brown one was 12 volts. So one went to the board and the other one goes to the board, but down there. However, if you'll notice just there, you can see that that brown wire has been joined. And it's been joined to the original brown and white wire, which is what it was. Because this wire, as it comes on the transformer, isn't long enough. This one here is 12 volt. So let's move down and have a look and show you where that fits. And it will all be simple from there on. And here we are. Indeed it is simple. There's the brown and white. Sorry, brown and black it is, not brown and white. Comes off the board, goes back along, joins that brown wire from the power transformer, and that's 12 volts. Now guys, there is actually a service mod to the Electra Dyne board if your serial number is lower than 1658. I think it's 1658. Let me just check that. Yeah, 1658, including 1658. So it's 1658 and lower. And it involves this area here with these diodes. This one, and this one come out. So 1, 2, 3. Those three come out, and you put a jumper wire between that leg there and that leg there. Oh, can you see that? That one there, yeah. Let me show you on a diagram. That should be the finished result. You can see it there very clearly. Your jumper wire comes off there. They've taken 34, 32, 33 out. So it comes off there, runs across, and runs into where D33's input pin was. So should I say connector was. So that's the mod. They say it makes your amp more reliable, and well, I guess they're right. The only problem is I'm not changing mine. It's too much trouble. If it blows up, well, that's fine. Chances are it won't. Yeah, how many more are out there that haven't been modded? I guess all of them, because they don't send them back, do they? Another thing you should notice that I did was to change these two, the MOV and this high voltage overload thingy, whatever it is, CL60. And I also reclipped all the cabling very nicely. Well, it's nice to me, it might not be nice to you, but yours should look something like this. I've got clips all the way down here, all the way down and all the way along, keeping all these wires in position and nice, because you know these amps can get thrown around a bit. So that's one of the things you really want to do and end up by using a bit of care, really, and you'll end up with a good product. I also noticed this, that sometimes you'll find these are not straight, they've been bent while you've been doing your work. You know, like little jumper wires, and they should be kept nice and vertical like that, away from the board, and it's all good. Don't forget to reconnect these as well. I had to disconnect those when we took this board down here off. That was another little pain in the neck. And apart from that, the truth is it should work. Does it work? Well, I'm about to find out. Oh, actually, there's one more thing we've got to do before we do that. So let's cover that now. Yeah, I know it's upside down. Don't worry about that. You can still read upside down. In fact, if you're Australian, this will probably be the right way round. This thing here has got a fuse inside. And you can see it says very clearly there, 4 amp fuse for 100 to 120 volts. And it's 4 amp slow blow fuse. Well, what you need to do for 240 volts is to put in a 2 amp slow blow fuse. It just screws out and you screw your 2 amp one in. Now the thing is, if you use a 4 amp for 240 volts, it's twice as powerful as it should be, well, twice as less prone to blowing than it should be, and your amp could fry. So what I would do, I would definitely change that for a 2 amp one, and mark it accordingly with a little sticker or something, and it's all good. What about that? Don't forget to do it, guys. Very important. Well, I'm back, I did screw all the back up, by the way. I don't know if I did tell you that, but it's got all the little connectors back on. Don't go and strip them or anything stupid, will you? And by the way, just before you go and ask, and because you forgot, is the little fibre washers go on the outside, not the inside. Okay, well, that about sums up the actual conversion to 240 volts, or 230 volts if you actually use the white wire from the input side. Yeah, good. Where do we go from here? Because what we've now got is this amp that's been converted, and we haven't got a clue how to test it, have we? You're not just going to plug it in, are you? Well, you could do that. But let's have a think. Well, now we've got a couple of things coming into play. First of all, remember that? Yeah, it's a Mesa Boogie cab clone. And what's great about that, with one of these wires, is you can hook it into the back where the speakers go, plug her in, and do something else which I'm going to tell you about in a minute, and turn it on, and you've got a headphone out, so you can hear what's going on nice and easily with the headphones. Well, that is when you've done the second thing that you need to do, because the second thing you need to do is probably more important than the first thing. That was the first thing. Yeah. Okay, well, I've got that thing out the way. You know what a cab clone is. Go and check my review. But that's one of its great uses for this. However, let's think a bit more here. What have we got? Well, we got this big fat power amp. And the problem is, if you've got something wrong, you can be in a situation where you fry everything. So there's a trick, and what you do is you connect the cab clone up first to the speakers, make sure everything's turned off, and then what you get is you get a little device that you can make up. Well, what's that? Well, think about this. When we connect the mains, in England here, probably in Europe, probably where you are as well, USA, well, you wouldn't be doing it, you'd be doing it the other way around, but don't worry, it's the same thing really. You've got this 240 volts coming in, it's coming in on two wires and the ground. Well, let's ignore the ground for a second. Now, those two wires come in and they end up coming into this amp and go into that little board there. They go through into that power transformer, into that switch, back down here, out to the switch, and go down to that board, and they go through the power transformer and out at different voltages. Yeah, I knew I'd get it right sooner or later. Well, what you can do, think of this. There's your two wires going to the switch and eventually to the power transformer. Well, they're 240 volts and that's that, aren't they? Well, they are. But the thing is, what you can do is take one of those wires and wire in a bulb. Yeah, a light bulb. A regular, one of the old-fashioned type, not one of these newfangled type of, you know the ones, like I've got here. Things that don't come on half the time. Anyway, you wire in series, one of them, so that whatever's being drawn to the amplifier is going through the light. Oh, what's he on about? Why is he doing that? Well, he's doing it because, think of it this way. If you have an amplifier that in some way has something that's wrong, whatever it may be, the fact is that it'll probably draw more current. Current, not volts, current. But what we can do is we can put a light bulb in that wire that comes in somewhere down there, yeah, at the back. And we can turn on and make sure you've got that other thing on your speaker connector or a speaker cab. And you just turn it on quickly. And if that light bulb goes very, very bright, turn it really off really quickly. And I mean quickly, because what will be happening is there'll be an excessive amount of current being drawn for some reason. And in a situation where the amp isn't actually doing anything, it's on standby, it's all this, it's all that, it's all the other, well, really the current should be very low. Now you can put an ammeter in and watch the current that way. But the cheap excuse way that I use, because I don't have all this fangled stuff that's new. Well, it's not newfangled, but you know what I mean. All the gear, I don't have it. I want to do the job cheap. Yeah, that's why I'm converting it rather than paying the full price in Europe. So what I do is put this light bulb in, flip her on, and if the bulb stays dim, it's all good. The bulb goes bright very quickly, straight away. Yank the wire out or flip the switch. Well, I'd yank the wire out if it was me. So you've got to be ready to pull that. And then you'll probably save your amp. Now, of course, the very last thing you've got to do is go and check all this once again. Check every single wire, make sure you're in the right place, make sure they're soldered well. You don't want nothing floating around. It's got to be good. Make sure it's 100%, and then you can proceed as I've suggested. Anything else isn't good enough. So it's check it again time. And that should be the conclusion of this review. Now, all I've got to do is, really, all I'm going to do, or at least show you what I'm going to do. You know what? I think I will show you. This is how you do it. What you got? It's got the mains in. It goes into this box here. Well, half of it does. You can see the grounds going this way into this one, and then it comes back along with the earth, and then it comes back out. But the live goes straight to there. So this negative here, this plugs into that, and there the negative and the ground that goes through that. So it's sort of in series, right? So all the current's got to go through this bulb, and you plug your amp to that. Then you can turn it on, and away you go. Actually, I put a little switch on mine so I could flip it off really quick rather than pulling at wires. So that's what I made. I made it from a book that's to do with tube amps and things, but works quite well. Save your amp, save your life. So now you know. Okay, well, here we are. I have the cab clone plugged in, speaker output, I have the headphones over there. But most importantly, I have the bulb on the floor. The mains is plugged in. Now the thing is, when we switch this on, it'll either go pop, or that'll glow very faint, or it'll go very bright. If it goes very bright, we just whack the switch quick. So you get your foot there ready, just like that. Dig the slippers, man. Then you just flip it on. And you can see that it went bright and then it dulled off. It's still drawing current, but it's very, very faint. You can see that. You may not with the camera. It's just very faint. And that's the thing. That's how it should be. Just a very faint glow. After that initial surge. And there you go. One conversion. I don't have the power tubes in yet, but I'm going to put them back in next and proceed forward, because that's basically it. Hope it helps. And lastly, here's a quick shot of the amp actually running flat out. You can see the cans on the top. If you listen carefully now, maybe you can hear that hiss. I can hear it through the cans, because the cans are flat out, along with the amp. See, the tubes are on full. Cab clone's doing its job. It's all rock and roll. That cab clone's got far more use than what you think. Anyway, there it is. So there's little else to say except to don't forget to visit my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/TonyMckenzie.com without the dot, or www.TonyMckenzie.com. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks for watching. I hope this video actually helps you a bit and saves you some money compared to the sort of ridiculous prices Mesa tried to charge in Europe. Yeah, import an amp. It's far cheaper. Maybe they'll force them to drop the prices a bit. Who knows? Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you again little bit of planes coming up, not much because I'm just showing you working. What else do you want to know? And off you go. Actually, I might use the cab clone for a better track, because I never did use the cab clone on this. And it was a very loud amp, if you remember the other reviews I did. So maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I will put a track on the end using a cab clone with the Electra Dyne. Yeah, rock and roll. See you again. Oh, just before I do go, I've got a Tony Iommi Laney amp coming up soon with 8 preamp tubes, 4 power amp tubes, and a whole lot of Black Sabbath. See you soon.